Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast to help you sail a little bit smarter. And today I am joined by Christy, and Christy and I are experiencing very different types of weather right now. I'm in Los Angeles, where we had 2 days of just like rain and it was lovely and everybody was living. And you're in for your second or third hurricane of the season. Nicole is just like right around the corner.
Yeah. So, we have rain, so we are similar. It's the same, but
You're right.
I'm a little less excited about the rain.
Wait, when is Nicole hitting? Is
yesterday.
Okay, so you've already gotten through. You've already gotten through the worst of it.
Yes. Yeah. Today It's done. She's gone. She went north. She's gonna go bother somebody else now.
Well, but you got through okay. Nothing.
Got through okay.
Was it easier than Ian or whatever?
Yeah, I think it was way windier here. You should have seen those trees. They were like behind the house. They were really going crazy.
Last night or before the last one?
Last night. This one, Nicole.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Nicole was a little more brutal, but also less like intense in terms of less concerns about tornadoes and just things like that. And it wasn't as much rain either. Like there was less concern that we were all going to need arcs to float away. I think, we only had to drain the pool once versus 3 times with Ian. So, things like that. So different, but also I'm like a storm watcher and therefore can't sleep when there's a storm. So
you just want to watch it?
I just want to see what's going on. Like check the radar, look around, check the house, watch the trees wave back and forth, etc.
Well, I mean, it's not very common for 2 storms in 1 year to close Disney. Yeah. So that's wild.
And to have been like 6 weeks apart, and apparently like 50 years ago, the last time there was a storm in November, there was also a storm like 6 weeks before. Freaky.
Well, history repeats itself. But luckily, we're not here to talk about hurricanes or weather. We're here to talk about cruising, our favorite topic. So let's dive into our guest today.
Who also was involved with both hurricanes. Welcome to the show, Lindsay.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here and dry.
Yes.
Yeah, you're down in Orlando, Lindsay. Did your house and everything make it through both hurricanes?
Yeah, everything was fine both times, but I have to agree, Nicole was worse.
Mm-hmm.
It was so loud. So loud. The wind was insane last night. So happy it's over.
You wouldn't know it from looking at the news. I feel like people were really blowing up Ian, but wow, you heard it here.
I suppose it was hurricane exhaustion, right? Just like with everything else. And because the election was just a couple days ago, I think that was taking up the entirety of the news. And
okay, so let's see. Lindsay, you went on a coveted 8-night cruise. People love cruises longer than 7 nights, and it's pretty rare to get to do one on the Fantasy of all ships. So I'm so excited to talk about this. Can you tell us a little bit about your Disney cruising history, just so we can get a sense of who you are and how you came to this sort of cruising intersection?
Yeah, so it was a 8-night cruise. It was also a Halloween on the high seas, and it was during Halloween, which was even more fancy.
Bonus.
And also super bonus. But yeah, I started cruising. My first one was in 2011. I went with some friends, just like on a whim, and I fell in love with it. And then fast forward to 2016, I got married, and my husband and I decided to do a Disney cruise. And once he got bit by the Disney cruise bug, it was pretty much game over after that. And we've cruised every year since, with the exception of, the COVID years.
There
was there was a gap in 2020 and 2021. But this past one that we just got off of the ship this past Sunday, and that was my 9th Disney cruise. So I am very close to platinum. How close I can taste it.
You're going to get platinum so soon.
So soon. I can't wait for that free Palo meal.
Not just free Palo, but on the longer than 7 nights, don't they do something special, or have they moved it to longer than 9 nights?
I don't know. They did like the little reception where you get to go down and like talk to the show directors or whatever. I think it was for Frozen or Aladdin. I don't remember which, but like they do the whole reception with drinks and all that stuff. So
amazing.
Yeah, that's gold and above.
Yeah, it's gold and platinum.
So, and they had that on this cruise?
They did.
I mean, we're jumping ahead, but that is great. That means some of the pre-COVID
vibes are back.
We got the invitation. We totally forgot to go. I saw everybody like coming out. I was like, oh, I'm entitled to one of those Mickey Rice Krispies, but I'm not going to be that person.
No, who just shows up and grabs the Rice Krispie at the end.
Like my invitation to my room. Oh, well.
What led to picking this 8-night?
Honestly, the allure of the fact that it was 8 nights on the Fantasy, because my husband and I check Disney cruises all the time just to like see what drops and like just, what our schedules look like, because, we're obsessed. And when we saw this one, we were like, oh, these ports are different. We've done the standard Eastern Caribbean, Tortola, St. Thomas. We've done the standard Western Caribbean with, what is that, Grand Cayman and Cozumel, right? Like we've done those itineraries. So when this one popped up, it was St. Martin and Antigua and St. Thomas. We were like, this is unusual. So let's go for it. And it was Halloween, which felt kind of cool. So that's why we chose it.
So your husband cruised with you, and who else was on this cruise?
Yeah, it was my husband and I, my daughter Liliana, who just turned 1. And then we also brought my husband's cousins. So essentially one married couple and their 2 kids, ages also newly 1 and 2.5. So we had 3 toddlers with us, which made for a very different experience than, our honeymoon cruise. Very different.
Very different.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on today is because this is actually your 3rd cruise with your baby, which I mean is fantastic. But I think that it's important. We haven't had that many episodes about cruising with babies. And I really wanted to compare, longer cruises with babies, shorter cruises with babies. Like, what did you learn from your first cruise with your daughter, which was, for the listeners, an Alaskan cruise, and your daughter was about 7 months old. And then you squeezed in a quick dream cruise, I believe. And here we are on the Fantasy. So I definitely want to touch upon like maybe things that you've learned, what you pack and stuff like that. So, and then of course we still have to talk about the actual Fantasy cruise, because that's also different. And these ports are different, which is exciting.
Yeah. I will say I actually found it really interesting, the differences in the It's a Small World nursery between the 3 cruises and the 3 ships. Overall, level of care, wonderful. Like level of attention, the way they sign you in, all of the procedural type of things, the things they get trained on, right? All of that stuff, very consistent across the board. But the one thing that I was actually really shocked was so different between the 3 was the communication that they have between the parents and the nursery. So on the Alaskan cruise on the Wonder, I believe we had direct back and forth communication with them. Like if something was up with her in the nursery, they would send us a message on the Navigator app and we would be able to directly respond. On the Dream, they sent us a message that said, please call the It's a Small World nursery from any ship phone, with no context. And I'm like out at the bar with my parents, like, oh, she's choking. Like, what's going on? And I called them. They're like, hi, is she allowed to sleep on her tummy?
Oh, God.
No.
Like, yes, thank you for the heart attack. But yes, thanks for your attention to detail. Don't fight that fight. Leave her. But then on the Fantasy, if something was wrong, they would send us a message in the app again, but it would say like, if I, for example, said Liliana needs to be asleep by 9:00, they would send me a message at 9:30 and say, Liliana hasn't fallen asleep yet. She's fussing, but we're working to help her. No way to respond. No like action for me. No like, please call. So then I'm like, well, I can't give you suggestions on how to help her. Should I go there? Should I call you? Like I almost would rather you not message me at all and just keep trying to figure it out, or tell me to call you and give you some help, So I just kind of found that really interesting with the nursery. But again, like I said, overall level of care, stellar, super stellar.
I do feel like, and I was just thinking about this as it related to something else childcare related with Disney Cruise Line, that the wave phones were actually really beneficial if you had young children, that were in the kids club, because we had similar experiences with my son in the kids club where it would be like, call us once. Like it was the same sort of situation. And then it was like the dumbest thing, like whatever it was, we didn't need to be freaked out and leaving, running to the phone type of thing and having heart palpitations versus just, sometimes we would get the message, hey, Blake wants to get picked up anytime.
Yeah.
Anytime you're available, come and get them. We're like, oh, okay.
Right.
So yeah, just an ability to respond or to ask questions or any of those things, or even to send a message that said, hey, does my kid want to get picked up? Because if he's happy, I don't need to come get him yet.
Yep.
So yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That's tricky.
So that was interesting. I would say just the other big thing that we learned was, believe it or not, strollers.
Mm-hmm.
We have the Duna stroller, which we really, really love. And we brought that to Alaska. We brought that on the Dream. It was great for traveling to Alaska because we bought a seat for her and you could put it right on the plane and things like that. It's great for travel, not great for trying to find a place for it in a stateroom because it's really bulky. So if there's other people traveling with Duna strollers, I don't know that I would necessarily recommend them for Disney cruises because they're just kind of hard to maneuver. We ended up every night putting it in the closet and taking it back out. It was kind of annoying. We ended up buying a $50 umbrella stroller for this cruise, and it was 10 times better. They're thin. They can navigate through, the stateroom hallways and all of that. It was a much, much better choice this time around for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. We definitely had different strollers for different needs when we would travel with my kid when he was in stroller age. And to the point of the umbrella stroller, I would definitely caution people to not buy the cheapest umbrella stroller because especially, as the kids get heavier and bigger, it will be harder to maneuver. It's harder to push on the carpet. But, especially if you are travelers and you're going to use it, buy an umbrella stroller that is portable. You can buy them that are carry-on size that you can actually bring in the plane and put in the overhead bin because they're made to be carry-on size. So
they fold down into squares these days. They're so fancy.
So amazing. Yeah. So it's worth it, I think, to invest in an umbrella stroller.
I agree. My husband was like, let's just get one of the ones that they sell at Disney, with Mickey on them. But my two main requirements were that it must have some type of storage and that it must be able to recline so that she could take naps on the go. And the one we got also had a shade and it was $60. So it was totally worth it.
Do you remember what brand umbrella stroller?
It was a Summer 3D Lite. No, Summer 3D Mini.
Okay. That's good. Because,
Amazon.
Listeners are going to need that.
Mm-hmm.
God, Amazon's the best.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of cabin did you have?
Oh my goodness. We did a guaranteed veranda and we were assigned, I don't know the lingo, but we were assigned one of the ones that's longer that had the Murphy bed.
The family veranda.
Which was a delight. Oh my gosh. So we had that on this cruise and the last cruise on the Dream. We did not have that on the Wonder. When you have a pack and play in the room all 3 times, you can very clearly see the difference that just little extra square footage makes in those rooms. Oh my gosh. I cannot recommend it enough. Instead of having the pack and play literally in the center of the, living space right there, we were able to sort of put it towards the veranda door and kind of out of the way. And that was really great because once she was in a dead sleep, we could kind of sneak in and out of the veranda, which was amazing. And, when your kid falls asleep in the room and someone's got to be there, you want something to do other than staring into the abyss. So being able to have the option to go out onto the veranda once she was sleeping was really nice, and not having to shimmy our way around a pack and play that was in the middle of the room. That was so, so nice. We were so thankful we got that room.
Yeah, on a cruise, I feel like any extra space makes the difference because you definitely feel it. I think if you've never been on a cruise ship before and you first open the door to your room, it's always a little shocking because you're like, what?
Yeah, I think
did I just enter New York City?
Literally,
very
that's how it feels.
tiny rooms.
I feel like those rooms also give you an extra set of drawers. If I'm
the
correct.
Opposite the bed,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yes, which made a huge difference when you have to bring so many diapers. I had a full diaper station in one of those drawers, which was really, really nice.
Well,
For
and
8
in some of
nights.
these rooms,
For 8
don't they
nights.
have chairs?
Yes. Yeah. So when we had the like conjoined rooms with our traveling party, I'll just keep saying our cousins because I guess that sounds the most normal. We had a conjoining room with our cousins and they had the chair and we had the Murphy bed option, which was interesting. And they had a pack and play as well. So they set it up exactly the same. And their setup was interesting because they also had the 2.5-year-old. So the 2.5-year-old was on the couch, fold down into the bed. And then the 1-year-old was in the pack and play pretty much next to her. And it was perfect.
I have in the past asked for that chair to be removed. And
smart. I didn't even think about that.
You know, very nicely asking the cabin steward if they could just find a place for this chair to live for the week. And I don't know if it's in some person's cabin. I hope not. But that chair went away and then came back at the end of the cruise.
That's great.
But if you have a Murphy bed, then you don't have the chair because it's in the same spot. So you could always double check that your cabin, if a person wanted a family veranda and it wasn't a guaranteed stateroom and they were going to pick it, they could pick a cabin for 5 and then see what's available, get their cabin for 5, and then they'll know they won't have a Murphy bed in the way. You have been putting on Instagram these daily like recaps of your cruise. So I do know a little bit about half of your cruise because I don't think you finished yet. Or I missed it the first time it went up, but I know it's
all right. It's going into a highlight. You can check it out.
Yeah. So why don't we really quick right now, tell everybody what your Instagram account is. So if they want to check out your highlight.
Yeah. So my Instagram account is my first name, last name, Lindsay DiPonzio. That's Lindsay with an A. And it's DiPonzio, DiPonzio, Lindsay DiPonzio, straightforward.
And Steve will put it in the show notes.
Perfect.
For this recording. But so those are really helpful. But the thing that I think, so I want to talk about the ports and something, especially with this unique Eastern Caribbean cruise, but something that I thought was interesting in the highlights that you shared is, and that any of us know that have cruised with a baby, that it is hard to do ports with a baby.
Yep.
And that some are easier than others.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we learned the hard way to do a little research when you have an infant or toddler that is too young to go on excursions. Now, when we went to Alaska, we were fortunate because there were actually a decent amount of excursions that allowed like under 2 or under 3-year-olds to go. So we had choices and we took advantage of them because like we didn't know if that was going to be a once in a lifetime trip, right? Like getting to Alaska for us is very expensive. So we splurged. Did a lot of excursions in every port. But for this trip, we looked into some and there were little to no options. So the vibe kind of between us and the cousins was like, well, it's fine. Like we'll just roam around. We'll get off the ship. We'll get lunch. We get back on the ship, go on the splash pad, like whatever, kids got a nap anyways. It's no big deal. So when we got off the ship in St. Martin, we decided to just kind of like roam around and we found a water taxi for $7 per adult and they let the kids go for free. And it was advertised that the water taxi would take you to shops and dining. So we were like, sure, we got nothing to do. Let's do it. That was a great option for us. This was just a personal thing, but we decided we would only be comfortable traveling with the kids in a bus or a boat because we didn't have car seats. So we took the boat and it was 5 minutes over to literally like a little skip and a hop over to the other side of the bay, essentially in St. Martin. We got there fairly early. We got off the ship really early. So I think we arrived at this shopping and dining area at like 10 a.m. So a lot of the dining wasn't really open and things like that. Everybody there is trying to sell you a spot on the beach, which if I didn't have kids, that would have been clutch. They're selling like beach spots with an umbrella, 4 drinks, access to their Wi-Fi, their bathrooms and their showers for like $25. Psh, I would have done that in a heartbeat.
Or if your kid was a little bit older.
100%.
Because
my child's not even walking yet. So like a crawling baby in the sand, that sounds like a nightmare. So we were like, no, thank you. Every 2 steps. But we just kind of walked around. It was an interesting little Caribbean town. It felt safe. Like I said, the restaurants weren't really open, but we were there kind of early. So we just walked it, had a good time. The adults grabbed a few drinks as we walked. And then we went, got the boat or the taxi, water taxi, and headed back to the ship and had free lunch at Cabanas. It was a great day. Really, like, no complaints. It was beautiful. It was as clean as you'd expect a pretty little beach town to be. And then we got to Antigua. And Antigua was a complete opposite experience. My husband and I were like speculating, these two ports, Antigua and St. Martin, were going to like really have, the bells on because Disney was coming to town. Disney doesn't go to those ports very frequently. So we knew it would probably be like a big deal for the ports. And we were so incredibly underwhelmed with Antigua. Now, I had people on Instagram going like, no, I cruised there. I vacationed there. I honeymooned there. It's the best, blah, blah, blah. And I totally believe it. If you are just adults or if you have a pre-planned excursion, I bet it was incredible. It was actually probably the top for us in terms of scenery, the mountains in the water, the little bays in between, gorgeous. As we were pulling out, the sun was setting, beautiful, beautiful islands. But the port itself, the port town was, most of us listening to this podcast have probably been to Nassau on like a Disney cruise. And Nassau is like, maybe we give it like a 4 out of 10. This was like a worse version of Nassau. It seemed like it was a lived-in Caribbean town that they threw a big dock onto for cruise ships. It wasn't set up for the cruises. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So we were walking, the sidewalks were really small. They weren't well kept. It was very hard to navigate with a stroller. And we went out on a quest for lunch and there were 0 restaurants. None. It was crazy. Like we started walking up the main drag and then all of a sudden, like we realized we weren't really in a tourist area anymore. And we were like next to people's homes. We're like, all right, let's turn around. So we went actively looking for duty-free shops because my husband's a bourbon snob and liked to look. We went looking for restaurants, right? Could not find them. And then we found one spot and we asked to see the menu and a cheeseburger was $40 American. And we were like, this is insane. We found a donut shop that we ultimately ended up just sitting at because we were like, well, let's just get some Wi-Fi. Let's just plug in for like an hour and then we'll head back to the ship. We bought one donut and a small iced coffee and it was $20. It was crazy, but we're like, whatever, we're just paying for the Wi-Fi. Again, let's go back and have a free Cabanas lunch at this point, So Antigua was a bust and it was so disappointing because I'd heard it was so beautiful, but we learned our lesson. We went to the Port Adventures desk that evening and we're like, we just want to make sure for St. Thomas, because we hadn't been there since our honeymoon. Are we like good to get off the ship, do you think, with toddlers? Do you have any recommendations of areas? And, of course, the Port Adventures for Disney are like, we can't recommend getting off and roaming around by yourself because they want you to do their port adventures, of course. But the guy did give us a really, really great recommendation in St. Thomas to do like these gondolas that I think is called Paradise Point. You go up these gondolas to the top of a mountain and there's a restaurant up there. The views were incredible. It was super kid friendly. We ended up doing that. It was a perfect day and we were grateful for it. But yeah, that's kind of all the things about the ports, I guess.
It seems like Antigua's the perfect port to book an excursion in.
Book an excursion, 100%.
Which, like, I feel the same about Nassau. If you're going to go to Nassau, book something that gets you
book it or don't get off the ship.
Yeah, because you don't want to just go.
Or book your Palo brunch if they let you.
Sure, if it's available. But yeah, there's actually only a handful, I feel, of ports in the Caribbean that are just like super easy to find stuff to do that's like walkable from the ship. Most of the ports are like, take this transportation or book this thing. Whereas in Alaska, weirdly, there's a bunch of stuff to do right off the ship in a ton of the ports, even though I do recommend booking excursions because you get to see really cool stuff. But like, it just depends on the vibe. And the vibe in the Caribbean is often, book a thing or else there won't be too much to do.
I agree. We did a little bit of both in Alaska at every single port. We did an early excursion and then did the roaming. And I totally agree with you. The excursions were phenomenal and worth every penny. but we also had a great time roaming too.
Yeah. The roaming is peak in Alaska. I will have to agree. But I do feel like for a lot of folks, the ship is the destination.
Yeah.
Because they're such Disney fans, so like 8 days on the Fantasy is still a like fun bonus, even if the stops are not. And also, I've had 2 infants in foster care, and we would never have taken them on a cruise because I would have been so stressed by
it was stressful, but
the getting off the ship part. I think
Yeah.
I actually think Disney ships are well set up enough for kids, right? Like, yes, you have to pay extra for Small World Nursery. And yes, I would be thinking, is my kid going to sleep with the movement or be like not able to sleep? But
and my daughter sleeps through the night on Disney cruises.
You just have to book more now.
Yeah.
That's a dream.
We've done some random transportations when Blake was an infant. Like in Mexico once, we actually tried to bring our car seat. There was literally, because we were going to a resort for the day or something that I had lined up ahead of time, there wasn't anywhere to strap the car seat in. Like their seatbelts, don't exist or in the back seats, or they're not made for a car seat. So don't try that. Then I do know that for like after that attempt, we used the carrier and we're like, well, we're strapping that kid into us. And at least he's strapped somewhere.
Right.
And if we can like be in some kind of seatbelt, then we'll do that. The kid will be in and like, this is what you do on these types of trips. And that includes in St. Thomas. We did one of those, it was either St. Thomas or Tortola or something. Those open air cabs that they have where they like throw a bunch of benches like on the back of a truck or something. And you're going through all of this windy scenery to get to the beach or to get to wherever. And it's like, is this where we die? Like, is this where we fly out? It's definitely, your safety standards change if you choose to do some of those excursions in these foreign places. Before we leave the Caribbean really quick though, or the excursions, when you did the St. Thomas gondola, did you just go out and walk to it and pay for it and go up?
Yeah, it was like a less than 5-minute walk. You get off of the ship into the port, you go down to like the main road, take a left, and it was like 1/8 of a mile on your right. Again, it's called Paradise Point. I think it was $24.50 per person. And they let the kids go free again, which was very generous of them. They also had like a cute little bundle where you could buy the ticket up and down as well as a museum ticket. They're attached with, I think, like some type of pirate museum. So for kids, it's a great option. Our kids wouldn't really care about a pirate museum, but if they were like 4 and 5, we might have opted for that as well. And I think that was like $33 or $34 a person, which is still pretty reasonable. You're going to get a full day of activity out of that essentially. So it was worth it.
Yeah, that's a cheaper tramway than in Alaska. In Juneau, they have the Mount Roberts tramway, which is like 40 or 50 round trip, maybe more. And those tramways that go right to the port, that's just like highly convenient. like that's great because then you don't have to even, travel or leave the port if you don't want to. And you made a good point. I know that Christy was thinking in her head when you said free lunch. Christy was thinking included
lunch.
But I will say,
it's my
on
tick.
port days,
I have a tick.
It feels free in the moment. Okay.
On port
no
days,
additional charge.
That is a free lunch because you could be eating lunch off the ship somewhere.
That's a fact.
And you're coming back to save that money. And honestly, I still haven't picked up my jaw from $20 for a coffee and a donut. So especially because the US dollar is so strong in most places right now. But this is literally just tourism costs, right? I'm sure it wasn't even a very good donut, or maybe it was.
It wasn't. No, it wasn't coffee or donut. Well, and it's interesting because I had something to compare it to because when we were in St. Martin, we were bebopping around and we stopped for like the guys to grab a few beers. I picked up a menu at the place that we were at and just looked at what their lunch menu would be when they opened, thinking to myself, like, I'm always thinking about food. Maybe I could wait 45 minutes for this. And it was very reasonable. It was like a coconut shrimp for $16. Like that's normal pricing, which is why it was so shocking when we got to Antigua and it was polar opposite.
Could you imagine, Chris, the heart attack I would have had if I had to pay $16 or $20 for coffee, which I am the cheapest. It's not even frugal at that point, right? It's just cheap. Like I do not pay for coffee almost ever anywhere. Mm-hmm. And so that
yes, but you really are paying for the Wi-Fi. Like
100%. I was like $20 for an hour and a half of Wi-Fi. All right. That I'll get behind.
Yeah. I don't even remember what port it is. So sorry, listeners. But when we did the Eastern Caribbean, we got off the ship and we're walking around before an excursion. And like right there was one of those like chain restaurants that's really like it wasn't Margaritaville, or maybe it was.
New York Frogs.
Yes. Okay. Hey, that Thomas. Actually sounds very familiar. So, and this particular one was like, come and drink while your kids swim in the pool and use the slide. And I was like,
Jamaica? Was that Jamaica? Because that sounds.
You have Jamaica one in Jamaica. They have a Margaritaville.
Wherever this was on a Disney cruise, we were thinking like, well, that's not like a bad deal. Do they have a little water park? They literally mean a 20-foot slide and like a 10-foot pool of water that is like murky. And I was like, I could just
unsafe on all accords.
Right? Yeah, like I could picture these parents bringing kids to there and being like, go play in the pool. And I'm like, that's just like not like you.
Well, they just throw down like all the rum runners. Oh God, yes, it's terrifying.
100%. So I'm like, I typically recommend booking excursions for no other reason than unless you're going to research the ports, you may have the experience you had. But my big sort of like grain of salt here or whatever is that I've never traveled with an infant, and I actually can't imagine booking some of these excursions. Like I'm pretty sure a lot of them, the know before you go says must be ambulatory and and at least 6 years old or whatever.
Yeah, or some will say no strollers allowed and things like that. Oh yeah.
Yep. So your options are limited, and like I was saying earlier, I do feel like your goal here partially was like we're Disney cruising fans, and the 8 nights sounds amazing. Like fun to see Southern Caribbean places you don't normally get to see, but 8 nights on the Fantasy, which means you got some menu that they don't normally do.
Oh, we did, and it was the first night, which was so interesting. We sat down and we were like, "Oh, what is this menu?" And they were like, "This is the extra menu," which. I don't know why. I guess I just always assume that's going to be the last night, but it was night 1. Let me see.
That's it. I can't wait to hear about it. Let's just go to food since we talked about the islands. Hold on.
Let me pull it up. Let's go back to October 29th. Scene of the crime.
So listeners, while we're pulling it up, just so you know, essentially on these 7-night cruises, the menus are almost identical across the fleet. Like they have like random names for them. Like one of them will be like a kiss goodnight menu or like a Caribbean goodbye, but it's basically the same menu from ship to ship, just depending on how many nights you're there. And that's pretty typical.
But you get chicken schnitzel, real chicken cruises. Schnitzel, not that whatever they're trying to call chicken schnitzel on the Wish, which is not. And I just recently saw a picture of my ooey gooey, like oil infused chicken schnitzel, which is not what they serve us on the Wish.
Well, I'm excited. I bet you there was chicken schnitzel on an 8 night.
Oh yeah, there was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so did you find the first night menu?
So I had to revert all my photos because I had cropped them for my Instagram content. So here it is. Appetizers. Are you ready?
Yes.
Prosciutto, mozzarella, and tomato bruschetta.
Yes.
Yeah.
We had a smoked salmon carpaccio.
Good.
A fried spiced calamari.
Oh. Wow.
And a chicken bastella, which was Moroccan spiced shredded chicken wrapped in phyllo dough, sprinkled with powdered sugar and cinnamon. Dang, that sounds good. I should have got that.
Oh, that's like a sweet and savory wonton type.
I'm very like, you had me at calamari, so I guess I didn't really read it all. The calamari was great, by the way. It came with a lemon garlic mayonnaise, which was like chef kiss, real good. Soup and salad, we had a clam chowder, which was yummy, but was so not a clam chowder when they brought it out. Didn't look like one, didn't act like one, wasn't one. But it was yummy, whatever it was. We had a couscous salad, a chilled mango and papaya soup. I think my husband had that and he said it was good. And then an arugula and baby spinach salad, like onions and a sherry wine dressing.
I mean, we're not even to the main courses yet. And there's several appetizers that I would want to go with. And
I was like, can we make this a main rotation menu? Just saying.
Yeah. Listen, Disney, we have so many tips for you.
Wait, in your picture, does it show you what the top of the menu says? Like, what's this menu called?
It doesn't say, because I was screenshotting.
You were looking at the actual things, right? Yeah. So we have to see what the name of this menu was. I bet you, honestly, we could find that on the Disney Cruise Line blog. They always have.
I was going to say, I'm in the Facebook group for that cruise still. So I bet you if I was like, does anyone have a photo of that menu? I bet you $1 million someone would have it.
Okay. Well, if we find it, we'll post it in the show notes or Steve can post it online and Facebook and Instagram.
Okay. All right. Here's main courses.
Yes.
Penne arrabbiata with a basil and garlic shrimp. A pan-seared halibut with a shredded potato cake. Smashed minted green peas with a white wine chive cream sauce.
So far, that's what I'm getting. I love halibut.
A mesquite grilled chicken breast on wilted spinach, crushed sweet potatoes with a cream of corn and bacon sauce. That's what I got.
I wish they wouldn't describe it as wilted, but
I know, like some sad overcooked spinach. Here,
sad
have
spinach
that.
And crushed sweet potatoes. They had a pork tenderloin Wellington wrapped in a mushroom crepe puff pastry with gratin potatoes, baby vegetables, and a Bordeaux wine sauce. And then they had a grilled strip loin with cheddar cheese and onion, smashed baked potato, roasted green, asparagus, tomato, and a red wine jus.
There were like 3 or 4 potatoes on those various dishes that all sounded amazing. I think my main course would have been the potatoes. From every entree.
Yeah, just give me the
potato flight.
Literally.
Now there's an idea. They would probably do it too.
They totally would. They'd be like, well, you need a main dish. No. Potato flight only, please.
Yeah, so I had the calamari, the clam chowder, and the chicken. The chicken was fine. The clam chowder I already described, and the calamari was really good. It came with like a grilled lemon, which I always think is like super fancy. Why are you grilling the lemon? The juice that comes out of it always tastes the same to me, but you're just making it look fancy, I guess. And it was also a lot of calamari. Like I finished that course and was like, oh, I got to eat more still, you know? So it was
like you were at Palo.
Exactly. Yes. Just like that calamari, and actually tasted exactly the same. So probably just go to the kitchen upstairs.
Speaking of, that menu sounds amazing. Also, speaking of Palo, did you do any adult dining, Palo or Remy?
We did. We did a dinner at Palo, a dinner at Remy, and we did the Remy dessert experience.
I've done that. It's so good.
It was so good. I was like, this is totally more expensive than a meal at Palo, but I'd do it again.
Worth it? Are you kidding?
For that citron, I would give my life.
You and my husband would love that together. That was actually like I was okay with it. Like I liked all of the desserts during my like whatever they call it, Remy's dessert party, but
dessert experience, I think, or something.
Yeah, there were some on there that were like art, and you didn't want to eat them. You're talking about the one that looks like an actual lemon, right?
Yes, it was so good, so unexpectedly good as well.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Listeners, I recommend that you go to Lindsay's Instagram page and go into the Reels tab and look for her dessert Remy Experience dessert reel. She does a video of herself eating like a bite of each of these desserts. It is so fun to watch. Like, obviously, I can't even eat most of those desserts as a gluten-free person, but I was like enthralled watching you.
I'm so glad because I didn't know what that, like, I was just taking that content, right? Like, let me just film this. And I filmed every time because they still serve you like it's a Remy dinner. And, you know, they put the plates down all at the same time and it's a dance and it's all still very bougie and fancy. And we also did the wine pairing. So I was like filming that, which I didn't put in the reel. But I didn't know what I was going to do with that content. And as I was posting my stories, I was like, you know what? Let me just put all this into a reel because it's just going to be easier so that people that aren't interested don't have to like thumb through all these different videos. So I put it all together and woke up to 20,000 views on that reel. I was like, sure, Remy. Okay. The people love it.
I mean, I feel like any sort of French patisserie vibe is the moment right now. I can't get enough of it. And we've done that experience twice because we liked it. Like we've done it on both.
Did you get different
times.
desserts or were they the same?
Yes. In fact, because we did it once on the dream and once on the fantasy, and the chef is different. And in
sure.
So like the lemon, the one that looks like a lemon was only on the fantasy when we did it. On the dream, that course was a citrus tart. That was Seth's favorite thing. It was like 5 or 6 different types of citrus that were like bruleed. So they were crispy and kind of burnt on top of like a custard tart. It was really good for him and fine for me. A lot of grapefruit, but I digress. And then both of them had that like King Louis or whatever, like a chocolate bar with actual real gold leaf.
Oh, yeah.
That was delicious, but I want to say that there were only maybe 2 repeats from the dream and fantasy.
Wow.
Everything else was
I'll have to try it on the dream sometime just for fun.
I mean, I also recommend not being full when you go, because if you think it's a lot to eat 5 desserts, it kind of is. These are like full-size desserts.
Did you each get one of those full-size desserts?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah.
And we actually got 6. Ours was 6, and it was at 3:15 p.m. and we had early dining at 5:45.
See, this is why
we were like, woo!
And honestly, this is a thing that you might actually be able to find reservations for, because it doesn't fill up as fast as brunch. So like, if you're looking to get into Remy, also like full stop, if you think that you wouldn't like the sort of like fine dining of Remy, the desserts is a nice entry point because it's pretty accessible.
Totally
I will say it's not super allergy friendly. I think when you book it, they say they can't accommodate certain allergies because the desserts are like
good call out.
Very, very specifically made by the chef. And
the citron takes like 3 days to make.
Exactly. They'll be like, we started making this last Tuesday. And you're like, what? That's usually
I agree with you though.
Disney.
I'm not like a very fancy, bougie, upscale Michelin star type of dining person. My husband eats it up, loves it. Mm-hmm. I was always like, Remy was fun, but they escorted me to the bathroom and I feel weird about that, like I could go without like the seat for my purse. Like I'm good putting it on the floor. Like I'm just like, give me chicken wings and I'm that kind of girl. But this, I totally agree with you. It's a great gateway drug for a Remy experience. If you're feeling like I am about the fanciness of it all, it's a great first step. And it's in the middle of the daytime. So you like actually see the ocean rather than your reflection in the windows at night,
And the wine pairing is weird. Like they put ice wines in there, like super sweet, unusual wines that you wouldn't normally get because they're specifically being paired with sweet desserts.
That's dessert wines.
Which is not common. You don't usually get a flight of dessert wine. So if you're just like, I want to have the most indulgent and baffling desserts, like truly baffling. Some of the things we ate, I did not know what it was. And I just was like going on a journey.
There's actually footage of me in the reel. This one, I took a bite of it and I'm like, oh, like I immediately am like, oh God, that's so tart. Like what's happening? And then like, it cuts to me like, well, licked the plate. Cause turns out it was delicious and had a really sweet aftertaste. Like I licked the plate. It ended up being one of my favorites. You just don't know.
That happened to me because I'm not a big fan of mint chocolate. And one of the desserts they gave us was like a mint chocolate dessert. And the mint part was like a sub-zero sorbet. And the coldness overwhelmed me. But then once I got over the fact that it was freezing cold, I was like, this is good. Look at them putting fresh
you
mint
surprise
in
yourself.
Chocolate dessert. So
that's the thing about Remy, even for the dinner. Again, I'm also like not a super picky eater, but I would call myself semi-picky. So I'm always concerned when I go to Remy that I'm not going to like something, but I try every single thing that's put in front of me at Remy and I end up liking it every single time because it's just so well prepared,
Yeah. Honestly, listeners, not that many people do this. So we don't have very many episodes about it. So just so you know.
Let's stick with food for a minute. One quick question I had thought of. Did cabanas ever open for dinner during your cruise?
I don't think so. I didn't personally go look, but I'm pretty sure they didn't.
So that's just
Still not a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A casualty that we haven't brought back post restart, I guess. So no cabanas for dinner. How did your daughter do during all those meals in It's a Small World nursery? Was she in there the whole time, or did she have babysitters sometimes, like family?
She was in there for the adult meals. So our adult meals were, I think, at 6:30 and 7. So we fed the kids before we went, but she was in there for a lunchtime once, and they're still not feeding them meals in the nursery. They're not doing lunches or dinners, but they are offering snacks. They do crackers, yogurt, and bananas, and then juices and milks and things like that. So when you go, you fill out a form every single day, and you just tell them what you want her to have essentially that day.
If she wasn't like a younger infant, would they have fed her a milk bottle?
Oh, if you told them that you wanted them to, they would.
Okay.
Yeah. Or like you can bring their sippy cup, for example. Like I brought her a sippy cup and said, feel free to fill this with water as she has a snack. I brought a few of her own snacks just in case she wasn't feeling yogurt that day or something like that. But yeah, if you wanted them to have 2% milk, it's offered there, and you could just bring their own sippy cup and they could just drink it from there.
But what if she was a baby and, that 6 months to 1 year or whatever, and was having formula or...
You have to bring it.
Okay, so they would feed that to
absolutely.
The baby.
That's
so
what we did.
Food meals.
Correct. That's what we did in Alaska. So when we were in Alaska, and she was 7.5 months old, I was between like breastfeeding and formula feeding her. I was kind of double dutying. But when she went into the nursery, I was pretty much just having them do formula. So what I would do is I would bring the bottle of formula already pre-mixed, and they would just keep it refrigerated and then warm it up when it was time to give it to her.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Which is similar to what we do for like daycare. So if there's any like daycare parents out there listening to this, same vibe, same situation.
And like overall, she did well going in there. And
yeah, so that was I'm glad you brought that up. That was kind of an interesting thing. After our Alaskan cruise, I got a lot of Instagram questions about like, was it okay? Did you feel good dropping her off? And I was like, yeah, it's so easy. Just drop her and go, easy breezy. But then they get to that like 9 to 12 months age and they get separation anxiety. That's a new little fun gift that they give you. So every single drop off was tears for all three of the kids that we were with, every single one. Some more challenging than others, but all three kids, tears every single time, which was like heartbreaking. But the beauty of it is the It's a Small World crew members were literally standing there going, they're fine 2 minutes from now. This is every single time. And then they're fine. Don't worry. And we would ask them, we're like, do you really mean that? Like, 2 minutes later, they're good. They're like, every time. As soon as you leave and we focus their attention on something else, they're fine, which is exactly what happens at daycare. As much as my daughter's been at daycare since she was 5 months old and only just started doing that a month or two ago. So it's the exact same thing. They fuss and then they have a great time. Like there was one drop off where my cousin's daughter, Mia, who is 2.5, she was like flipping out. The first time we dropped them there, it was her nap time. So the instruction was put her to sleep. And so she went to sleep and woke up and we were there to pick her up. So the second time that we walked in, she was like, I don't want to take a nap. She was associating it with sleep. Right. And we were like, no, you can play. It's going to be great. And she was like really, really upset. So that was a very hard drop off. But when we picked her up, when I tell you, I've never seen a kid smiling and so happy in their life. She came running at us. She had a Polaroid in her hand of her and Goofy because the characters like will come and stop by the nursery. And she was like on cloud 9 beside herself, so excited to show us that. So it's true. Like sometimes the drop-offs are rough because you are dropping them with strangers. Of course, that's scary and difficult, but they get used to it and it really is great.
Oh, that's so good to know. That's really good. That's really great. One of the other things I wanted to talk about while we're talking about kid related stuff is things that you packed. Obviously, as your daughter grows older, different things need to be packed. But like, what are things that you packed on the Alaskan cruise and things that maybe you packed on all these other cruises? Well, mostly on the Alaskan, maybe that you thought you needed but didn't for your baby. And then what you learned to pack going forward. Like, what was there something you wish you had packed or anything like that?
There's nothing I can think of off the top of my head. One of the cruises, I forgot swim diapers. So don't forget those because they're expensive in the gift shop. And I was lucky they had her size.
They don't, right? Usually half the time it's like size 4. You're like, why? You only have size 4. So,
and I wish I could say that I learned something and like got better and this was the best cruise for packing. It wasn't, because I clearly miscalculated diaper counts for this cruise. We got to day 3 and I was looking at the diapers and I was like, there's no shot this makes it till next Sunday. There's no shot. So literally the first port in St. Martin, they had a great duty free shop.
After they had diapers?
Water taxi, they had Huggies Mickey Mouse diapers for $16.99. I was like, thank you. Those are mine. So, and they were in her size. They had several size ranges. It was great. St. Martin duty free. I love you for that. But yeah, you would think I learned my lesson on that. I didn't. I did worse this time around. Bring toys. We bring like a whole extra duffel just of her toys, because when we're getting ready or like we just don't want to go anywhere, we do breakfast in the room and things like that. She's got to be entertained. So we'll bring a bunch of like her little stacking cups or, you know, some of the little like phones or whatever, like just some of her silly little toys that are easy and compact and portable. We bring those with us, and then we throw on like Mickey Mouse Clubhouse in the room and she can just chill. Yeah. Obviously everybody's kid is different, but definitely bring toys. You don't need to worry about a diaper genie or a bottle warmer or anything like that because they've got it on the ship. I also learned through accident that they also have bottle sanitizers on the ship. When we were in Alaska, I sent my husband down to check out the bottle warmer from guest services, and he came back with this giant thing. And I was like, that is not a bottle warmer. Yeah. What is that? And it was a bottle sanitizer. So I was like, oh, good to know that they have that. You can also rent strollers from them. I don't know how good of quality they are, but I saw it on the rental form when we rented the bottle warmer this time that they have stroller rentals and things of that nature. Don't have to bring a pack and play. Like, it really is so easy to cruise Disney with a baby, which is why we've done it 3 times and we'll probably do it many more. It's so easy. And to get back to your question about the packing, I wish I had like a concrete example of like, oh, I didn't pack that and I should have. I will say I'm a crazy person and I'm a super paranoid mom. So one thing that I bring on every Disney cruise that I don't talk about a lot, but it is in a drawer in our room, is a de-choker device. Because I'm paranoid that she's going to choke or something is going to happen, because she's in the mode where she's trying different solids, right? And like babies at her age still don't understand what they're using those little pinchers for and putting in their mouth. They don't understand the size, or if she were to grab a blueberry off somebody's plate, like just God forbid anything happens. I have like a de-choking device that I bring with me on every cruise.
Well, good job, Mama. You never know, right?
I also want one for my car, so it's with me at every restaurant, but maybe I'll ask Santa for one.
It's a good idea. Another item to bring if you are traveling with an infant or a young child is medicine. So when mine was younger and couldn't take over-the-counter regular medicine, we always brought Benadryl just in case he had allergic reaction to something. And with Benadryl, they don't put the dosage on the bottle for young children. Oh, yeah. You have to actually ask your doctor. So you might be able to Google it, but I don't know why you shouldn't Google it. You should ask your doctor. So get the dosage for the weight of your child before you go and bring that, because the ships aren't going to have liquid form of all of those pills. And then Tylenol.
Same thing with children's Motrin. I think the under 2, there's no dose. You got to ask your doctor for it.
Yeah. So Motrin, Tylenol, etc. Bring those in like a little like medicine pack
Yep.
And just in case something comes up, you'll have the medicine. And even now that my kid's a little bit bigger, we'll still bring stuff that we know he'll take.
Yeah.
Because, if they get sick and they won't take it, that's not helpful either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We brought Benadryl, Motrin, Tylenol, some saline spray, because if she got congested, that happened in Alaska, where like the last night or two, she got like really congested. We brought like the snot sucker, because that's the worst when you can't get it out. Trying to think what else. Oh, we also brought like some unscented lotion just to keep her skin super hydrated. Liliana has very sensitive skin. It oftentimes like breaks out into little eczema patches, just kind of depending on where she's at, what she's doing. So we brought like unscented lotion to just kind of like fully keep her skin hydrated, because the Caribbean is very salty air, and like, as humid as it feels, like it's just, we literally were at sea one day and my husband put his hand on the rail and lifted it up and it was coated in salt.
Yeah.
Which on your skin obviously can very much dry it out. So we did things like that just to help her. But yeah, I agree with you. Thinking about meds is a totally different layer of traveling with kids.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and like, because the skin sensitivities made me think, if your child needs a certain type of soap in the bathtub, bring that as well, because obviously they have the H2O products, but if they are not, if they're potentially eating the soap, you need to have a different type.
Yeah, I didn't bring H2O products at all, or I didn't use H2O products at all. I always brought like little travel size, like baby soap. I brought baby like bottle soap, dish soap, because we were, washing bottles in the room and things like that. So we brought like a little bottle scrubber or like a bottle sponge with the baby bottle soap. And we just kept that in like one of the little sink areas. Another thing we brought on the Alaskan cruise, she was at a point at that time where she was like sitting up, but like not super confidently. So because we were in a normal veranda room, not like the family veranda, we had the rectangular tub. So I had the foresight and I purchased like a little inflatable tub that has like, what's what I'll call it, like a horn in the middle that they like straddle.
Yeah.
Which was a huge win. Blowing it up was super easy. My husband did it in like 5 minutes or less. And we bathed her in that so that she wasn't like falling over and hitting her head and things like that. Or one of us would have had to be holding her up or showering with her, which just all feels like scary to me. And like she would slip out of my hands. I don't know. I'm just but I bought one of those inflatable tubs and it actually worked really, really well in those more rectangular tubs that they have on the ship. I would definitely recommend that.
Super smart. And that is what we did when we took our son on cruises that didn't have tubs, because we cruised when he was younger on some ships that had just a shower. And so
other cruise lines don't.
So that he could still have his little tub with him.
Yeah. Also, really quickly back to the meds thing. Before we were leaving for our Alaskan cruise, another one of our cousins that is a nurse reached out to me and was like, hey, you need these. We use them in the pediatric unit all the time for kids that are nauseous, and they're P6 bands. So they're like the pressure point bands essentially, but they're made for like really small wrists. Again, they sell them on Amazon, P6 bands. So we brought those with us just in case we like got into rough waters. Alaska is totally not the place that you need those. We learned because they go so darn slow. You hardly feel the ship move, but Caribbean for sure. I would bring those.
Yeah. Especially going out as far as you did. So in your Instagram stories, you talked about, she's a crawler still. So going to this beach is not high on your list right now. What did you guys do at Castaway? Did you get off? Did you play in the splash pad? Like, what was your Castaway day like?
Yeah. So we've done 2 Castaway days with her, one at 11 months and one at 12 months, respectively. Both days we did get off the ship and we went to the beach. We got chairs. We did all of that. We took her in the ocean, but she's still too small to even like have a life jacket on. So we're just kind of like carrying her and like passing her back and forth and like dunking her in and out. And like, that's fun for about 15 minutes max.
Yeah.
And then like someone's sick of having her on their hip, or like she puts her hands in the water and then rubs her eye and realizes she has salt in her eye. And then her eye's all red. So we would spend literally maybe 15 minutes in the ocean. And then we got out. She ended up falling asleep on me both times actually that we were at Castaway Cay. So we did some nap time on the beach. We made sure to get those nice shady spots under the trees with umbrellas, and then we ate at Cookie's barbecue because she loves herself a husk of corn. Let me tell you what. It's like her favorite part of the cruise when I just hand her that corn and she goes to town. So we did eat there, which I love that they have high chairs out there. Why wouldn't they? They're Disney and they think of everything. They're so family friendly. But they've got high chairs out there. So we eat the barbecue and then we do go to the splash pad, which justice for the Castaway Cay splash pad. It needs so much love. It's very underwhelming, but it's water coming up out of the ground. And for a baby to crawl around and like try to grab it and splash around, it does the job. So we spend like a half hour in the splash pad. We maybe go back to the beach and hop in the ocean one more time. And then that's it. And we head back to the ship pretty much.
Yeah. Beach days with infants and even toddlers are just a whole different game. Yeah. They're not quite the same.
You hate to wish away the years, but like, man, when they're 5, that'll be a lot easier.
Yes. And still bopping from thing to thing to thing sometimes, but.
Now, I will say on this trip, we happened to walk by the bike rentals and noticed that they have bikes with the little toddler infant, seat attached to some of them. And we were like, maybe we'll do that next time we come to Castaway Cay, just for something different, like go for a bike ride out to the lookout tower, just for something else, Yeah. So we talked about maybe we'll do that next time for sure, but it's another fun option.
Yeah, I think it's like up to like, is it 40 pounds like that? Your kid will be like 5 and they can still go. They're very wonky bikes, especially the ones with the seat, but it is very nice. Yeah, exactly. It is very nice to have another option.
An option, yes.
If you are lucky enough to have a cabana, they will actually, and you have a pack and play sleeping kiddo, they will bring the pack and play out to the cabana. Mm-hmm. Yes. And there's even like this little curtain, like you can shove your kid behind the curtain.
We talked about that. We said like, okay, if one of us would have been platinum, because all the cabanas on our trip went platinum, because a lot of platinum.
They probably all went concierge, actually.
True.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have a friend that actually used to work on the Fantasy, and he was like, oh, it's an 8-night cruise. You probably have a lot of platinums because the platinums love to do, the unique ports and the longer sailings and things, which totally makes sense. So we knew that like even by gold booking time, there would be no cabanas. But if we get the opportunity to do a cabana someday, especially if we're with another family, we agreed that like splitting that 2 ways is a no-brainer for
especially with littles. Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll do that someday for sure.
Yeah. I think nowadays, because of the Facebook groups, which Facebook groups are great to teach you things, but they also teach everybody things. And so it used to be that not every cabana was swooped up by concierge, but honestly, there are more concierge cabins. And then the Wish is just ridiculous. Most of the concierge don't even get a cabana either. So they're swooped up by concierge occasionally, though. Some will fall off. Some of those will go back into rotation. And so that's where you want to just keep checking the activities, because every now and then one will pop up and you can actually have a say over whether or not, you want it. What else from this cruise? Oh, you know what we have to talk about, because we have not talked about this in years. The Jack diaper dash.
Oh my God. Let's talk about the diaper dash. I have so much to say.
I saw in the stories that you guys participated.
Good. Yeah, it was super fun. So I was like, we have to do it. I had seen it for years and like, this was the moment, I don't think they had it on the 3-night cruise on the Dream. Either that or I missed it, but I feel like it's usually on an at-sea day. And for us, it was the last sea day, which a friend had tipped me off. She was on the 7-night sailing the week before us and was like, for us, it was last sea day. So check on it for you. So it was like a must do for us. I had favorited it on the Navigator app. We were going. It says to arrive 15 minutes early to sign your kid up. So I got there, like, I would say 10 to 15 minutes early. I was the first one. And I was like, oh my God, it's just going to be a race of one. Like, what's happening? Eventually another family brought their kid up and I was like, great, we got 2 kids. It's a race now. That's what we came for. Awesome. It'll be fun. So we're just like chatting with the family, and it was just going to be the 2 of us. And then I kid you not, at the last second, 2 families walked up, literally like lights are down, show is starting, and they signed up 2 more kids. So I was like, the competition just doubled, not that it's that serious, but it is fun. So they like introduced all the kids, and my daughter was the only girl against 3 boys. So I was like, oh boy, here we go. And one of them was a 14-month-old non-walker. So I was like, oh, we don't stand a chance. But I knew we really didn't stand a chance when they said that there was going to be a practice round, which I posted about that on Instagram, and someone else told me that they were jealous because their kid didn't get a practice round. And I was like, oh, it was a different ship. I don't remember which. But I guess that varies by ship if they get a practice round. And my daughter is a very like one and done type of girl. So I knew as soon as they said practice round, I was like, this isn't going to go well. Also, pro tip, listen to this right now. If you are going to ever enroll your child in the diaper dash, they don't let you coax them down the lane with food or drink. So the whole plan.
I definitely did not expect you to say that.
No, the whole plan was we wake her up from her nap. We get a bottle ready. We hide it from her because she'll be ready for a bottle. And then we get down there. And as soon as it's go time, like whip the bottle out so she sees it and comes to us because that's what she's going to want. They said no. And it turns out the second family that had walked up that like we thought it was going to be the only 2 of them in the race originally, that mom was like, same thing. I had a bottle ready to go. Like, son of a nutcracker. So she did a great practice round. So good. So fast. And then she had a meltdown. Mm-hmm. Like she saw daddy, who she loves, and he was at the finish line for that reason. And she crawled right to him. And then when I took her away from daddy to go back around for the real race, game over. Like she was livid with me and was hungry. And at that point, it was just not a good situation.
And they make everybody scream. And so at that point,
overwhelming.
There's so much noise, like adults are probably getting overwhelmed, and then the kids are all losing their mind.
Yeah. And I just knew, I was like, this is going south. So they bring us all out for the big race, and they're like still interviewing us. And I think I came off a little curt to the crew member, which was so unintentional, but they were like, she's crying. What do you think she's upset about? I was like, she misses Dada. And he was like, oh, we better keep going. And I was like, no, I didn't mean that, like to speed you up. It's just the real answer. So we like get them all down in the lanes, and there's 5 lanes, 4 kids, just my daughter for girls. And they like fire them off and off they go. And the first one out of the gate is my daughter. And she's like sobbing, but she starts going. And I'm like, oh, we might have a chance at this. And she goes like a third of the way down. And my daughter's a thumb sucker. And she like sits back on her feet and just sticks her thumb in her mouth and is like sobbing, like, like through her thumb, and is just like quit, like went on strike at that point. And none of the other kids were moving until this one kid finally all of a sudden was like, oh, I'm in a race, and like took off, didn't stop from the start line to the finish line, zipped past her, totally won. Totally well-deserved, but I'm very proud of my daughter for getting second place as the only girl in the race, because she did end up crossing the finish line. So very proud of her. It was a fun experience. It was super cute, but I did learn some things. So if we ever have another kid and we do a diaper dash, we'll make sure they have their bottle beforehand, and then we'll bring some fun toys to have at the finish line. That's the learning for sure.
Now, did they give out prizes still to everybody who participated in the diaper dash?
Yes, we got a Disney Cruise Line bib.
So 9 years later, they're still giving out the same prize.
Still giving out bibs. I was like, we don't really use these bibs anymore at this age. We use like silicone ones that actually catch the food, but it's cute. Maybe we'll use it with our next kid if we have one.
They're very cute.
Yes, and the winner got a medal.
I was going to say they better have gotten a bib too.
Yeah, bib and medal for the winner.
Babies don't notice that they have a medal.
No, they don't. And I actually really wasn't that upset, because when we cruised on the Dream, a friend of mine was a guest services coordinator, and he did a little magical moment for my daughter one night and like brought her a bag full of goodies. And one of the goodies was the like Minnie Mouse winner medal. And I was like, oh, so even if she doesn't win the diaper dash, someday she'll have a medal. So she's
That's very cute.
yeah.
Aw. Well, I think we've said a lot. We've discussed a lot. I don't know about you, but I was up way too much for that stupid storm last night.
I feel like I was up at 3 and didn't go back to sleep.
Mm-hmm. So I think I'm going to go put myself to bed.
I love that for you. That sounds great.
I love that for me too. So thank you, Lindsay, so much for coming on today to talk about your experience. There's probably hours more that we could have discussed, but I think we have to call it a night. Mm-hmm. Please tell everybody one more time where they can find you on Instagram, because I really do. Your Instagram channel is great. And I just think it has so much great content, especially for people with young kids. So where can somebody find you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Instagram at Lindsay DiPonzio, LindsayDiponzio. That's my first name and last name. I post all of our Disney Cruise content. So if you scroll back in the highlights, I've got the Alaska stuff. I've got the stuff from the Dream last month, and I'm creating the highlights today of the fantasy stuff as well. So that's where you can find me.
That's great. Thank you again for coming on. Definitely.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I want to hear more about future cruises, because I know that you have the cruise bug, and especially cruising with your daughter. It's so fun to like relive some of these memories about, cruising with littles. So
and we've been on every ship now except the Wish. So my husband is really itching, and we don't have a cruise booked yet, like for a next future cruise. So we might just have to hop on the Wish for a quick weekend or something like that.
Yeah, you have to try it. I mean, she's different.
Yeah.
And if you could go during Christmas, during the Christmas season, so that you can see
great.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it would be so nice. We'll see. Yeah. We tend to, spend more money than we need to on Disney cruises, but
I think all of us do, and most of our listeners do. So we understand.
All right.
Well, thank you again, and we look forward to talking to you after your next cruise.
Thank you so much. I would love that.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Well, that's going to wrap up our show today. Once again, we'd really like to thank Lindsay for coming on and sharing her experiences traveling with an infant on 3 different cruises this last time on the Disney Fantasy. And how about that Remy dessert experience? It was making my mouth just water listening to him talk about it. And go over to our Facebook page and you'll see some pictures of some of those amazing desserts that Lindsay got to sample while she was up in Remy. We'd also like to give a huge shout out to our Patreon supporters who help bring this show to you ad-free each week. You can find out more information on how to support our show by going to patreon.com/DCL podcast to find out all the information there. And if you have time to go over to iTunes and leave us a review, that helps others find this show. It gives us a little bit more notoriety in the Disney cruising, and just the podcasting community in general. And really helps others find the show when they search Disney Cruise Line podcasts. Well, between now and our next show, if you're heading out on a Disney cruise and Adventures by Disney, headed down to the parks, or just spending time with family and friends as we get ready for spring break, on behalf of myself, Steve, Christy, and Chris, all of us here at the DCL Podcast, we want to wish you to be well, enjoy time with family and friends, and we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast. The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.